Can you hear it loud? The world is ready. Stand up proud. Your story is power. Your passion's the spark. With Innovate AI and i3,
I was sharing in the last session that Peter Diamandis actually created an AI book writing tool last year with one of the leading publishers in the US. And Peter's writing his new book. And one of the things he said is by the end of this decade, there's going to be two types of companies. Those that are using AI and those that, you know what, don't exist. So the fact that you showed up today speaks volumes. And it's not just running a company, it's your life. It's the things that you can optimize to get your time back. And I'm not going to delve into a lot of tools, but I'm going to highlight some things that I think you'll find really powerful. But before that, I do that, I just want to share something to maybe open your eyes a little bit to some possibilities.
Transform your business operations and overcome the challenges holding you back. I'm Dr. Eric Goodman, and given my track record of proven results in strategy and change management, I know how overwhelming it can be to navigate today's fast-paced business environment. Resultados comprobados en estrategia y gestión del cambio, cero abrumador que puede ser navegar. Aber das muss nicht so sein. Stellen Sie sich einen Arbeitsplatz. 不知所措，许多中小型企业 prend du fardeau des tâches répétitives. NW Zrengo Lashes Covenant as Handicap's English, which happened to be right. Then actually not such a gun with a computer. Electrical pilot that's regulated.
How many of you believe the world is flat, like Thomas Friedman talked about, right? So think about the power of AI to transform our ability to communicate in any language possible. How many of you speak another language? Okay. I took Spanish for a while. I know a little German, but not fluent like that. But now I can speak dozens of languages, and I can reach people no matter where they're at. Game changing in terms of the potential to do that. And more importantly, I can actually leverage my time, something that some of you that were here for the earlier sessions heard me talk about, because they always say, you know, you can't buy time. Well, actually, if you have the right tools, I can tell you what, I've got my digital twin. Some of you might be coming to that session tomorrow that my coaching clients have access to, and they can talk to me 24/7 on video or call me or chat, and it's me. It knows what I know to be able to interact and help them move forward in what they're doing. And whether it's that or AI agents, there's some other sessions later where we'll get a little deeper. I want to have the opportunity to share with you some powerful tools. Again, I want to acknowledge CBRE. Obviously, this is their building, and they're the world's largest commercial real estate, really, brokerage. And so as you think about growing your business and you're looking for that space, definitely keep them in the mind. They do an amazing job in taking care of their tenants. And so ultimately, when we think about the world, I think before I share a little bit, some of you, I don't want to be too redundant, and I used this term last session, that I'm a recovered academic. I earned my PhD at CU Boulder, Go Buffs. Any CU alumni in here? A few, okay, well that's good. At any rate, I was a professor, and then I went on to become a business school dean, leading one of the nation's largest colleges of business, and am immersed in this idea of learning, and not just learning, but actually applying it in a way that you can do things with it. So when I study things, I tend to go deep. So whether it's becoming a certified coach, a master practitioner of NLP, last session we were talking about mindset, the things with neuro-linguistic program help you rewire your brain in some respects and create new neural pathways. And part of that too is based on the meaning you have in things. So I invite you to think about like why you came, like what's meaningful to you. Why do you want to learn about AI? What do you think it'll do for you? And how you might use it to sort of frame this up. Because I think when you understand the why, you'll figure out the how. And we've got tremendous resources and tools to help you do that. I want to also invite you, if you didn't check in when you came in the door, you'll see some of these posters that say Ignite Your Challenge, CS Colorado Startup Week check-in, to take a minute and scan that. Because when you do, you're going to get access to not just this session, but all the sessions that I'm presenting in. Because my biggest pain and having served on board of the local chamber and other things, is seeing businesses fail when there's no reason for it. And one of my favorite courses to teach was business strategy, because there are proven ways of doing things, and AI and these tools that are in the market allow us to access them in a powerful way. But having said that, after you scan that code, the other opportunity you have is to scan this code and also visit. It's all a little crowded back there, but there's a selfie station hidden back there. It'll also be up at Lucky Strike this evening for those of you who want to come to a mixer on 16th Street. Love to see you there. And there'll be props and other things with selfies. But what we're doing is, with this challenge, and it's really a gamified approach where we want you to tag what you're doing here. And once you scan, you'll actually get the detailed instructions. But you can unlock different AI tools. To do that, you'll be part of an AI community that you can leverage. And we're also giving away access to other programs that we offer between Innovate AI Systems and i3 Empowerment. When you scan that, you'll be taken to a screen and you want to retrieve your photos. And we've got a Roman photographer. You've seen him around. He's actually right over here. I want to acknowledge Stephen Murphy and thank him for that. Also want to acknowledge Graham Johnstone for doing the videography from Black Dove Studios. And ultimately, with this photos, when you have a picture taken of yourself, you will have an opportunity when you download, do a little selfie scan. Facial recognition, anyone aware of it? Obviously, I was actually flying last month, and I actually boarded. Anyone gone through those yet at an airport? So cool. Like, I didn't even ask for more board. I just walked up and just like, oh, okay, cool. Pros and cons, of course, but with this, what will happen is once you scan your face, you'll get access to a photo album. Any picture you appeared in, it'll find you, which is super fun. And we invite you not only to do that, but it makes it easy. Once you have a photo you want to share out in social media, tell them about something you learned, somebody you met, whatever it is about Startup Week, then you hit share and it'll automatically allow you to do it to your social media. And that's part of the challenge you'll hear more about. But ultimately, it's about leveraging and becoming more visible with what you're doing. And even if you just share one thing you took away on social media, would that be beneficial for someone else that wasn't able to be here? Think about how much you can learn from other people. And not just like a post, but like do a reel. Say, I was just at this session and this really struck me, or I took away this or that, and I'm going to do these things moving forward. So I want to share that with you. AI, I think the advantage with AI is you can scale, and it doesn't have to be hard. Right? Because you have the ability to do things. Because ultimately, the challenge typically is, how many of you are solopreneurs? Show of hands. Like, how many other people are you involving in your work? Are you doing everything? Are you that jack of all trades? When I work with my coaching clients, one of the things I say is, like, stop doing $10 an hour work. And I don't care if it's $10 an hour or $1,000 an hour. It's all relative. But, like, what is the work that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing? That is uniquely things that you can delegate to somebody else. And so as you sit in this session, I want to invite you to start thinking about, with some of these tools, what are the things that I could actually leverage this tool for? If I had this, what would that do? What would I like to get off of my plate? When we sit down with a business and look at their operations, their processes, their flow, what are those pain points? Where are those bottlenecks? What are those things that AI could do? Because the reality is, a lot of the things that those entry-level jobs that are here today, they're going to be gone tomorrow, clearly, because AI can do that. But the thing that it can't do, which is something that I want you to recognize, is the human creativity that you bring to it. So it can free you up to do more of that in a way that you can contribute and have more an impact by directing the AI to do that. And it's really understanding that and doing it in a way that you can have more impact. And when you think about AI, there's there's obviously different ways of thinking about AI, but I think it's helpful to have a framework in how you think about the types of tools that fall into different buckets. So I'm going to share sort of that framework as I go through some of the tools, because part of it is for research and knowledge, right? In the last session, we were talking about the rate of change in information and everything that's out there and the value of a college degree. And it's like, you now have the expert in the world at your fingertips. And you know what? How many of you are using, let's say, ChatGPT? Show of hands. Okay, great. How many of you are using a tool besides ChatGPT? Awesome. Okay, I want to hear about some of the tools you're using as we go through it. But just take ChatGPT with their 5 model. The reasoning level of that, you've got, and that was their goal, was to, have an expert PhD level rational logic sort of background in every field. And so that's at your fingertips. Think about that. And actually, just a sidebar conversation, I was at an event at CU and I was talking to one of the head talent people at Deloitte, talking about the consultants, and they're looking at all the AI stuff that's going on and the number of changes that they've got to make internally to their 100,000 plus workforce, because a lot of the value of the consulting process now people have right at their hands. How many of you, I guess I should ask this too, how many of you have a free account on chat? Paid account? Okay. So you can see whether it's free or paid, you can still have that expertise. It's available to you. There's no question about that. So the other thing is using AI to create and communicate. How many of you consider yourself sort of a creative in that space and what you're doing? Okay, great to understand that. How about on the operations front? How many of you are developing building tools, engineering, doing things like that? Excellent. So those are some buckets. And then one of my favorites is just productivity and the things that you can do personally in terms of your own self, and whether it's with developing and growing and learning. And, AI can be that mentor 24/7. I mean, what's so cool is you say, like, I want to learn this. Act like the leading expert in instructional design, learning strategies, neuroscience and behavior, and give me a 30-day plan to do X. It'll do it. It'll lay it all out for you. But it's garbage in, garbage out. You've got to understand, how do you actually prompt the tool to be able to give you that type of information? So when you look at research and knowledge, part of it is, your ability to have intelligence. Anyone using Perplexity in here? Okay. So what's cool about Perplexity is when it comes to research, it's probably the tool. It's my go-to. I use it all the time because and out of the gate, it was built to do it. Now, obviously, OpenAI and Anthropic and other ones have gotten better at it. But in terms of actually citing things like Google Scholar and some of the other tools that are out there as well, to really understand at a deeper layer what is out in the universe, and also making sure that it's not a hallucination, right? Because we've seen so many cases in the world where people are presenting things as if it's fact when it was actually just something that chat made up, or Gemini or whoever. It doesn't matter their model, because they will do that. But your ability to have real-time market research is incredible. The competitor analysis and data that's backed by decision making. So when we think about that, I'm gonna just go walk through some of these tools, and we'll come back and we'll have some time to go through some of them to highlight some of what you can see. Anyone using Notebook LM? Google. Okay, awesome. We got some people doing some cool stuff. How about Claude? Any Claude users in here? Okay. And every one of them are geared towards different things. And I'll share this about Claude, because when we were developing our AI book writing tool, we were looking at all the different models and figuring out like what works best, but also, of course, making sure we're taking the authentic voice of the writer to do that as well. But if you're looking for, long form and context windows, and also that prose and the ability to write in a way that's a little bit more human, and I think personally OpenAI took a step back in that with 5. Ultimately, though, Claude does a masterful job of doing certain things around that with its reasoning and the way it actually leverages the information, things with workflows. I should ask, like in OpenAI or Chat or Perplexity, who's using like things like projects or AI agents and things like that? How many people are getting into some of the tools? Awesome. Because there's so much there. There's so many layers to peel back that you can take advantage of. But again, these are all tools that have different, purposes for you to at least begin exploring. And the beauty is that there's information out there on YouTube. We have an AI mastermind that I host to help people understand some of these tools and go deeper on each of them so you can really understand how to leverage it. So those are a few. When it comes to research and knowledge, again, understanding what they can do and how to utilize them, And when you talk about orchestrating what you do, anyone using AI Studio from Google? Okay, a few people. That's a little bit more powerful in what they're doing. And a colleague of me reminded me, I've had a Canva account for probably like 3 or 4 years. Anyone using Canva? I mean, right? Like, I mean, I think, and he pointed it out, and I think part of it is it's an underrated tool. They have done some incredible things with AI. And it's like, you've got to pay attention to some of these tools that are out there, because ultimately, when you look at the nature of AI, and I get reports daily from half a dozen different sources, newsletters and things like, there's so many new tools coming out. But ultimately, we see the larger entities, of course, are integrating AI. They already have the market share. There's demand for it, right? We need to build in AI. So more companies are doing that. So eventually, and we're going to see it pretty quick, and we already see a lot of failure with everyone like the fad of the month. I need to develop this tool to do this, and I've got this app and that app. Last year in this very room, we had a VC panel that I was hosting with some individuals talking about the number of ideas that actually get funding, right? It's a fraction. It's a very small percentage, even though there's still a lot of money flowing into AI companies. And that's not to deter you, but the fact is everyone's looking for that, $1 million idea, $1 billion unicorn. And the reality is that very few will get there with what they're doing. And things are changing so fast. And so when you look at what you're investing in, I think it's important to recognize that. But Canva, if you haven't been in there, definitely go in. I know I just started recently going back in like, oh my God, this is surprising. Like, where did that happen? That they have this that you can create with AI. And even you can go live within Canva. Did you know, anyone know that? Like, there's all sorts of stuff in there now. With AI, it's crazy what you're doing. Yeah, Dave.
Do they have an AI to tell you which AI to use for which?
Well, yeah. Well, that's a great question. I mean, part of my goal is because I love tools, and I shared earlier, I've got hundreds of subscriptions. Half of them I need to eliminate, but is playing with things and seeing what works and what doesn't work to make it easy. And that was part of the intent behind this session, to say, you know what? You need to figure out, depending on what you're doing, if it's in the bucket of research and knowledge, if it's in automation, if it's in productivity, like, what are you trying to solve for? And just pick a tool and like focus on it, rather than, oh no, there's this new tool and it does this and that. I know, I've been there, I'm guilty of it, because that's what I've been doing the past several years. I mentioned in an earlier session, I helped a company develop what was considered the first AI tool with empathy back in like 2018, 19. And since that point in time, before all these tools started hitting the market, there was a lot of tools that were out there, but no one knew about them, or that people were developing. And I had a lot of them, and now 90% of them no longer exist. But the reality is, these tools that I'm sharing with you today, I believe personally, they're ones that I use, that I think if you have this in your arsenal of tools, and you don't have to have Claude and Perplexity and OpenAI or Gemini, just pick one, but recognize they each have unique strengths, and depending on how specific you want to go and how deep you want to go, you want to obviously, be sensitive to that, but don't get like a shiny object. And you want to be aware of what's going out, because yes, there are game-changing things that come out, like 3 Thursdays ago, Nano Banana. Anyone using that model yet? Oh my God, like game-changing. And anyone using Veo from Google? Okay, cool tool, I love it. Anyways, Notion AI, any Notion users in here? Okay, super cool when it comes to productivity and note-taking. I like to think of Notion really as sort of a second brain. Because if you ever want to access stuff that you're like, oh, where is that? Where did I put that? And I'm pretty well organized, but this is like the ability to integrate everything you're doing into an ecosystem so you can retrieve it quickly and you can organize and structure things. It's a really powerful tool. And of course, with anything, whether it's team documents, meeting notes, things like that, there are templates that you can actually leverage as well, depending on what you're trying to do with Notion. So it's one that's high on my list. Some other tools in terms of for creatives, of course, Gamma, which is something, anyone using Gamma in here? Okay, a few people. So I will tell you this, and it's not just pure Gamma, but all the slides you're seeing today were created in Gamma. There's beautiful AI. There's a bunch of different ones out there. Gamma just yesterday released some really cool features. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have time to dig into it. Like Gamma 3.0 hit the market. I got the message. I'm like, oh, I want to get in and explore. But anyways, there's some amazing features and animations and other things you can do with it. But the reality is, how many of you have developed PowerPoints or presentations? Okay. How many of you, keep your hand up, developing PowerPoint presentations or present with some sort of some tool? Okay. So if you're presenting, now keep your hand up if you're doing it manually, the old school way. Okay. Because literally, I was meeting with somebody last week who does investment stuff, and they're putting on a seminar and working on their presentation. She's like, God, this is taking forever. I'm like, how much time have you spent on it? She's like, I'm up to, and she's an investment, so she like tracks her bill. She said, I've spent 23 hours on it already. And I'm like, holy crap, like, are you over-engineering this? Like, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm trying to find this and pulling in images and everything else. And I said, okay. And I said, I've had the good fortune, I guess, at being an academic in the roles I had, to oversee the development over probably 50 degree programs, certificate programs from the undergrad to doctorate level, 1,000+ courses that we've developed in different programs for individuals. So I have that experience. So I asked her a couple questions, and we built some things out before we put it in Gamma based on what I know about leading teams of like 30 instructional designers with PhDs in that field and building simulations and stuff. But I said, okay, now based on this, let me take that and let's create a presentation, and I'll demonstrate it for you. It'll blow your mind. She had her presentation in less than a minute after we got the framework. And even if you don't have a framework, it's an amazing starting point to do it. So game-changing tool. Midjourney, anyone using Midjourney or Alpha? Okay, a few people. For image generation, I remember when it came out probably 2 years ago. I don't know. I was the early adopter of it because it was like, oh, this is so cool to be able to generate images. And then I got the ideogram, and there's a bunch of other image generation tools. And then, of course, now you've got Nano Banana and other tools out there. Google VO I mentioned, and obviously Notion AI. In terms of your content, can actually, the content creation, I'm listing Notion in 2 categories. And a lot of these tools overlap. They don't just do one thing, be clear. So Gamma, Midjourney, Google, they all do different things. And I think when you look at the ability to use Gamma, not just for presentations, but you can actually generate pitch decks, narratives, proposals. You can have documents. You can actually put stuff on the web. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can create from it. Midjourney, the image generation, is pretty phenomenal. Obviously, Google VO to be able to create other types of AI videos and things like that. Obviously, Hollywood quality. And then when you talk about productivity and presence, some overlooked things, and we may take it for granted. How many of you use Zoom? Okay. How many of you are using their AI companion that's in there? How many of you are using the transcript? How many are using, I mean, getting the summary of the meetings back, right? But the AI companion is pretty cool. You've got other tools like Otter, which I like because you can then have all your meetings. And unlike Fathom and a bunch of other different tools, Otter gives you the capability to search back through everything very quickly for whatever client or information and find it and organize it. And you can ask it like, I think I met with this person, before. And I was like, oh, yeah, you met with them on June 22nd, 2023. And here was the conversation you had. Like, so it'll retrieve things in a way that's really powerful with the meeting history and also being able to search. And of course, with all these tools, how many times you have a meeting, and back in the day, you had somebody that was taking meeting minutes. Now you got AI to do that. And it's capturing everything in terms of, well, you said this. It's like, yeah, you can't dispute it. It's like, no, now you have the recording too. And the action items, like these were the things that we agreed upon that we're going to look at. 11 Labs, anyone using 11 Labs for voice stuff? Okay, super cool as well. I mean, I think it's probably, there's a number of players in the voice area, but it's very powerful and they continue to improve. You got HeyGen and Synesthesia and other ones out there as well that do other things. But if you're looking at some of those opportunities, I think it's really important. I mentioned ChatGPT. You know, I think it's a bonus tool, but it can do a lot of things. And obviously, the image generation has increased dramatically. But a lot of you, how many of you would consider ChatGPT your main tool that you use? Okay. How many of you have another main tool? Let's hear what are some of the tools you're using? Just shout it out. Copilot? Yeah, of course. I didn't even, sorry, Gemini, Copilot, Microsoft? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Grok, yes, Elon. I mean, other tools. Yeah, over here. What was that? Oh, Lovable. Okay, yeah. In the development space, you've got all sorts of tools to do that. Yeah. Go high level. Yeah, an amazing tool. We'll actually talk a little bit about that in the next session too. So any other tools that, yeah, in the very back. Motion dynamics, cool. Getting some good stuff, Dave. All right, yeah. There's so many tools out there, and it just depends on what your use case is. So you've got to understand that and figure out what tool's best. And I think when you look at a tool, and this goes back to the question about like, oh yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there. Like, how do you discern it? How do you curate it? What does that look like? And there's a lot of people that are go-tos that, you know, I think about like, oh, what are they doing? What are they saying? There's people that do nothing but like dig deep into these tools and have teams of people doing that. So getting plugged into that can be really helpful. But I think the key is really, again, don't get every tool out there. Just choose 2 or 3 tools strategically. Like, what is it I'm solving for? Where do I want to start? Do I want to start with writing? Do I want to start with managing my email? Do I want to start with some image generation or social media posts? Or, you know, the list goes on, organizing all my information, scheduling meetings, having that automated in my calendar. But it's doing that, and then also just make sure that you're looking at like those bottlenecks. What are those operational challenges? And if anyone's interested in too, we didn't really promote it, but connect with me because we can do an AI audit and look at some of that stuff. We have tools to help with that too that can help you with that roadmap. But ultimately, you want to look at how the tools can connect, how they can integrate together. And most of the tools now do with APIs, and it's not that hard to connect them. But it's looking at the flow and making sure that it's connecting. Now, I personally, I like Make. Anyone using Make? A couple people. NAN, anyone using that? Zapier. These are tools that basically connect up all these different tools to hand off from one to another. Think about the assembly line process. That's basically what they're doing. But you're pulling data from one system into another to help build that out so that you can scale and then optimize and look at your workflows. And what are those things in the last session we were talking about the 80-20, like what are those things that you need to eliminate that don't make sense? And question everything with the way you've been doing things. And if you think out of the box, how could you approach it differently? What would be a solution to that? Yeah.
Are there any AI tools that allow you to screen paint or screen scrape so you can interface with apps that do not have APIs or still?
Let's talk more about that. I've got some ideas for you, but yeah. Anyone else have anyone else have something for them? Make sure to connect with them. Great question. I mean, there's tools out there and there's workarounds for a lot of different things, even with existing tools that aren't necessarily built for something like that. But, you know, it's putting the future, it's AI, right? It's first. And so one of the things I want to share with you is, and this will be a little different, but basically on the second and fourth Thursday monthly, for just an hour, and this is free. The next one, we're skipping the fourth Thursday this month, but is October 9th. If you want to join me, it's complimentary. You can feel free to do that, and we'll be talking about things. There's also an opportunity to ask questions in those different sessions. And then there's a, you know, for someone who wants to go deeper, there's like a mastermind that I run as well. But I want to make sure you're aware of that. And what I want to do is actually get in to show you some of these tools, right? In terms of some of the things that they can do that is so powerful. So bear with me a second while I do that. I think that's going to change that. All right. So let me just do this, and I am going to go in. Is there anyone here that hasn't used chat? Anybody not using chat? Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that then. Anyone that's not using Gemini? Some people are, a lot of people are, most of you are using Gemini too? Okay. Who's created images in Gemini? Okay. Who hasn't created images in Gemini? Okay. What should we create an image of? Give me an idea of some image you'd like to create.
Giant panda crawling up an office building.
A giant panda crawling up an office. We could do that. I got an idea of something though. I want to create a group of entrepreneurs. Let's do this. Okay, hang on a second. Thank you. I'm leaving that up for a minute while I'm typing. You don't need to watch me type. So, all right. Okay, now, thank you, Greg, for that reminder. I'm going to share my screen. I've just got to pivot this real quick back to this thing here and get this showing. So you see that there. I'm going to create an image of a group of entrepreneurs riding a roller coaster. How many of you felt like you're riding a roller coaster at times? Let's see what it comes up with. And the more specific and granular you get, the more powerful the images are. But I can say, create a cartoon character, do this or that. I can also, obviously for those of you who are in photography, I still remember taking photography in high school. But I'm like, okay, I want to do this image, but I want to create it with an aperture setting of this at this speed, with this angle and everything else. You can give it those directions and what you're doing. So you can see here, there's the entrepreneurs, right? And the wording, pretty good. It's not misspelling like everything like it used to, right? So powerful tools, anything you can imagine, you can create. And my rule of thumb is, besides those 4 buckets, is to really think about what are the things that you can create. Spend 10% of your brain power with the idea, the concept. It's that 80-20, my version of the 80-20. 10% on the front end. What is it I want to create? 80% let AI do the work, and then 10% coming back and making it refined, making it yours. And if you apply that, think about it. I've yet to meet with somebody that I can't at least free up 1 or 2 days a week by doing that. Because if you could eliminate 80%, like think about a work week. You've got 5 days. 80% of that would be 4 days, right? 1 day a week working. Yeah, question in the back.
I'm curious if you know of a tool that specifically handles diversity better than a lot of current tools out there. Because, the example right there in Gemini is 3 men that look exactly the same.
Yeah, yep. Thank you for... Anyone have a tool you've run across that handles diversity well out of the box? I can tell you they don't, because there's bias. Obviously, it's been trained on everything that's out there. And so when it comes to all of the bias that exists, you've got to be very specific about that. And you can, but you've got to tell it. I want a diverse group of individuals, and diversity defined by what? Is it ethnicity, race, religion, color, and or political beliefs? Whatever diversity you want, you can represent it. But you've got to actually let AI know this is what you're looking for. And diversity of age, it can be a lot of different things. But that is a really key point that cannot go understated, is the bias that exists in these systems is tremendous. There's still a lot of it. Now, some systems are better than the other, where they're working on it, but it's still not there. And so if and when there is a tool that something you think really does a great job, I would love to hear it. I haven't seen it personally.
Is there a tool that actually does that for disability? Because I can prompt away problems with ethnic background and all kinds of other
Sure.
things. But disability is almost impossible. I haven't figured out how to crack the code in any of the image generators.
Yeah, well, with your other question, let's talk more. I mean, a disability can be defined in a lot of different ways, right? So getting clear on that might give me some ideas about that. So anyways.
I have just one thing. It's
Yeah.
called a Justice AI GPT is the only one that I've found that's kind of along the line.
Awesome.
Justice AI.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I want to show you Gamma. So now, like, what do you want to create a presentation for? I'm just going to use the AI thing. I'm just going to tell, rather than actually, let's go back. Let's just use you can paste in text, you can use other tools, paste it in. Well, let's just use a one-line something. What do you want to make a presentation? Anyone got a presentation coming up in here? Yeah, what do you got a presentation on?
Project proposal for a mini docuseries.
A project proposal for, okay, what is the docuseries about?
It's going to be a behind the scenes highlighting a drone team.
Highlighting a drone team? Okay. For a mini docu-series. Whoops, sorry. Highlighting a drone team. We'll just do that. Let's see what it comes up with. So we're just going to create, I'm just going to do, you can select the length of the presentation and everything else. But it's basically going to build this out, and it's going to use the logic. And so if you ever create a pitch, actually, my partner and I, maybe Gene Lammy, who will be here a little later, we do pitch training. We actually have a session on it later. So it's not just like as easy as this, but there's a lot that you can do. So here's the outline. I don't know how far along you are, and you can use these tools. And this is where the reality is, as a teacher bringing all these students here, like, you know what? This is the reality. People are going to be using these tools. We've got to work with it in a way we can build it out. But you can see, I don't know, feedback like why drones, meet the team, dramatic missions, visual storytelling opportunities. You can go in and edit and change it if you'd like. But let's just go with this in the interest of time. And I'm just going to say, yeah, it looks good. I think it's a pretty good outline. Let's generate it and see what it comes up with. And you'll see, like the example that I shared of why you shouldn't ever spend 23 hours on a presentation in the future. And it's doing the research, it's pulling in the stuff behind the scenes, it's laid it out. So if you tell it you're doing a proposal, you can do a presentation, you can present this online, you can do other things, but ultimately then, when you think about this, it's finishing up. So if we look at this presentation, mini docuseries, spotlighting an elite drone. Not bad, some of the images it came up with. Why drones, the sky's the limit. Meet the team, the human element, so you can talk about what you're doing, dramatic missions, visual storytelling, aerial footage, before-after sequences, rise of the drone tech. I mean, not bad for a minute, would you say? Why now? It's given the rationale, the impact, the ROI. So, pretty powerful. Anyone like jaw drop, right? When you think about how quickly and efficiently you can do it. And again, I really invite you, and can't emphasize enough, do the research. And you can use Gamma as well in that outlining process. Just don't take what it comes up with. That's that 10% of you. I would never put in a one-line prompt in a presentation because you want to make sure it's got my fingerprints, the information I want to convey in there. But it's so powerful to be able to do that. Let's see how we're doing on time. Google Notebook. Some of you had shared that you're doing that. I'm just going to go to a website. So we've got a program called Ignite Your Passion. Some of you were here this morning. How many of you have created a podcast from the Notebook? Anyone done that? Okay. It's pretty cool. So basically, you just put in some information, your website or whatever, but we put that in, and it basically, this is just two AI agents talking about our program.
Welcome back.
Ready to dive deep into a program that promises to ignite your passion and skyrocket you toward your goals?
Absolutely. And we're tackling Ignite Your Passion, 28 days to leverage up your zone of genius, empower, and build your legacy by Mamie Jean Lamley and Dr. Eric Goodman.
This program really caught my eye, and I'm so glad we're diving into it together today. What were your initial thoughts?
You know, what struck me right away is how it flips the script on traditional goal-setting programs.
Right. It's like they hit pause before the starting line. Instead of jumping into action plans and to-do lists, day one is all about you.
Yeah, it's all about understanding your why. They dive deep into your core values.
So pretty cool, right? Like, what would it take to create something where you've got voice agents doing that? And realistically, you can do anything. You go in, you can put in all your documents for your business, and you can start creating, you name it, from it. It's a great RAG system. And when you're using a RAG system or a retrieval augmented type system, you know, the thing about it too to be aware of, and it's a word of caution, everything you put in chat is training the model. I mean, you can opt out of it, of course, in your settings and stuff, but you're feeding the system. And so if you're looking at proprietary business information, you don't want to be feeding things into it. Like, and I've seen people do it because I'm like, oh, you can take a chart and have it analyze it in, you know, seconds and tell you what you need to know about the P&L or whatever. And they're like, oh, great idea. And I'm like, yeah, but you just don't put it in there because then it's in the world, right? We don't know what that looks like. But ultimately, it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's a fun tool to do that. Actually, I think I brought this up. So this is where when I was talking about like the prompting, that makes a huge difference. So this was the prompt I gave for this video. Cinematic dolly zoom onto a stressed, anxious male founder in a dark, modern office at night. Use high contrast, lighting, his monitor, it goes on. So, but you can make it as much as you want. And literally, takes a little longer, but it created this video from my prompt. Like, is that pretty cool or what? Like, to be able to do that. And so I'm going to do another one down here. I'm just going to pause that. An explosion of light on a screen transforms into futuristic swirling vortex of countless glowing nodes representing an AI agent swarm. The colors are vibrant blues, greens, stylized sales graph, so forth. So it does take a little longer because you think about the technology in a system like this and how much it's got to pull to create videos. I remember I was at another event during this week, actually, at one of the co-working spaces where there was an individual that had built a rigging system, AI rigging system for Hollywood to create motion pictures and mimic all the different things. And obviously now he's no longer selling that product because these things change so quickly in a way that it is going to transform the jobs that people have, whether you're a photographer, like the idea of a headshot. You know, I can now with Nano Banana say, here's a picture of me. Now put me in this suit, this color. I can find that if you're selling products, things like that. You can say, mock up this. I want to be holding this product in my hands. I want to be in a beach. I want to be on the top of Machu Picchu. I want to be here or there. It can place you everywhere. And, you know, it used to be you had to hire a team of professionals. You had to travel across the country if you wanted that shot on the beach or in the mountains or in space or wherever. Now you can do it with a few words that you're typing in a computer. So again, I invite you to embrace AI. There's so many cool tools out there. I only scratched the surface, but again, if you want to learn more about them, I encourage you to, you know, see me and make sure you're in the challenge event. You'll also have access to a community, an AI community, where we can share the tools we're learning and what we're doing as well. And that's a free thing as well. A question over there as we wrap up.
Thank you so much. So I have a lot of basically proprietary videos, like dance stuff. So if I were to use AI to create, if I was using my school's work, could AI then take that and use that for other people's work?
Well, it's
how do I know?
Yeah.
Like I use Canva a lot. I don't use AI, but how do I we can consider putting things in things they might take it.
Well, you know, we don't know. I mean, things are evolving very quickly. in terms of that information. There was just a big publisher suit, if someone who saw that $1 billion plus, that they had trained the models on thousands of authors' books and things like that. So it is very possible. And so I think if you're creative with anything you're doing, you want to, be sensitive to how you're sharing that information with the model. And I really, even if it's a basic RAG system, setting things up so it's sort of like another layer of complexity. Anyone using like Amazon for development with any AI tools? We had a DoD project that we were looking at, and like there's some things that are like secure, very secure systems that you can get to manage the information that you have so it isn't getting out into other areas. I don't know, this video is still generating, but again, you're welcome to stay around. We'll take a couple more questions before the next session.
I feel like because things are changing so rapidly and there's new tools coming out all the time, that right now the best course of action for me is to hire somebody else to do Canva, hire somebody else to do virtually all this stuff, a Fiverr person something. Is Fiverr or some kind of gig system really the way to use these things in today's world? Because next week they're going to have something better and different, and I don't want to waste my time learning Canva when something else comes out next week.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, you want to vet whoever you're working with. I remember doing a project probably 2 years ago with a NA expert out of somewhere in the Ukraine. Like, we found them through like a Fiverr thing, and you've got to vet them and make sure that they've got the skill set when you're doing with those contractors. Again, and this was something I shared in the earlier session, the 2080. What is your unique zone of genius? What is your gift? And it may not be learning an AI tool to create a Canva post or doing your social media. And that's where but it may be you or hiring or getting access to AI agents that can do all that stuff for you. So you don't have to have that individual doing it. You can have an AI doing all that same stuff in a way that it's sequenced and can allow you to do that. But you ultimately have to ask yourself, what is the best use of my time? What's the highest value? And what's my zone of genius? Like in your business, again, stop doing that $10,000 or $1,000 hour work, whatever you're doing, and reflect on it. And if it's adding value, there's people that will just love going into tools all day long, and then that's a distraction from their business and what they really should be focused on, or their role in their company. So I think you got to balance that as well. It's a great question because there is that risk. Yes, over here.
When it comes to IP ownership and usage with AI, I recommend that everybody read the terms of service. For sure. Because it is listed.
A lot of them do, and how many of you just scroll down that and hit agree, right? It's human nature, and there's been some interesting cases of that recently too, where people are suing or doing things even though it was there. So there's a lot, to be said about that, but that's a really great point. So I want to be sensitive to the time in case you need a stretch break. There's restrooms back here, there's water and beverages around the corner. Again, a big shout out to CBRE for hosting it, and we'll start the next session. We're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the abilities that AI can bring to scaling your business, especially for solopreneurs. So thank you all for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you throughout the day.